What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's League podcast. I am so stoked for this episode. I'm not going to do the chit chat like I normally do at the start of episodes because I want to get right into this interview that I recently did with Margaux Alvarez. Margaux is a complete package of a badass. Now, those of you guys that might be unfamiliar with her, she is a 7-time CrossFit Games athlete. She is a winemaker. She is a Titans athlete. She has done High Rocks. She is an American Ninja Warrior and so much more. We talk about fitness, we talk about athletics, we talk about future goals, how to balance it all, and of course, we're going to talk about wine too. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode, but just make sure to do me a favor. Make sure that you're subscribed to whatever platform it is that you're listening to this on. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to give it a thumbs up. All right, let's go jump into the show. First off, before we get started, I had to say welcome to the 40 Club. I know that you just had your birthday.
Yes. Thank you.
How do you
I
feel
feel
about
26
it?
in my head.
I know. I turned 41 on Sunday.
Oh, awesome. Happy early birthday.
Oh, thanks. We're not talking about it because 40 was so much better than going into your 40s.
Yeah, that's funny.
Mentally, did you handle it okay? Were you like, oh my God, or were you excited?
Yeah, no, I think like I didn't really do much. I just kind of like kept it low key, just did some work and stuff. I think yeah, I think I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm 40. I'm like, all right, it's just another year. Like again, I think my mind, I'm just like 26 in my head. So I'm like, my back feels 100, maybe I'm 40, so maybe that kind of evens out. I don't know.
Yeah. That's what people are always saying. Like, do you feel 40? I'm like, no, I feel like I'm in better shape than I was when I was 20. The only thing is I have to warm up and cool down now. And I have to make sure that I don't sleep on my back or on my
For
stomach.
sure. Yeah, the recovery aspect I would say is a little bit longer. But again, I think a lot of it's mindset, like your mental attitude, like how you talk to yourself, like, oh my God, I'm so old. Like what
Right.
you say has a direct impact to the body. And if it's like if you are a negative, if you are like man, like bah humbug about it, then your body's gonna pick up on that. But if you're more like, hey, I have another year of experience underneath my belt, like I think it's gonna go in a positive manner, at least to my
Ex-
mind.
Yeah, no, totally right there with you for sure. I've just been doing a lot of introspection since, like I said, 41 is coming up in a few days. And exactly right. When people are like, do you feel 41? I'm like, first off, when you're 15, you think of your 40s like, oh my God, she's so old. And then when you're here, you're like, what? I totally remember being 15 was like yesterday.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, the podcast is super laid back. I've already even got it recording. It's just two
Awesome.
women talking about the things that they love. And I've been following you since, your early days of CrossFit. And especially knowing that you were a wino, I was like, oh my God, this woman is showing what it's like to be so serious with her sport, but also show balance when enjoying not only having other passions outside of sport versus being like so tailored in, but
For
being like, oh
sure.
my God, she drinks wine. That's okay.
Like, yes. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people don't think like they don't think wine and fitness go together. And for me, it's about a balance, about moderation. And that's something I've always kind of talked to people about, like whether you drink or don't drink, like you don't have to drink it. If you don't drink, that's fine. I totally respect that. But it's about balance and moderation and finding that balance in life. It's like, are you able to disconnect at the end of the day? Can you, wind down on your couch with your kids? Maybe you're eating, bonbons on the couch, hanging out, watching a movie. Like it's more about kind of philosophy and approach in life. Is like, we are not guaranteed tomorrow, next month, next year, next week. We don't have that guarantee. When I think in our mind, like, okay, we're going to be around for a while, like things can change at the drop of a hat. And so for myself, it's all about that balance. Like, yes, work hard, yes, grind, but also if you constantly push an envelope and you're not able to at least maybe disconnect or, unwind for a little bit at the end of the day or the end of the week, like it'll compound. And I think, and that's just my philosophy. And again, everyone has different approaches. But I think it's really important to kind of find that balance in life. Because if not, then you look back and you're like, I spent all that time and all that work doing X, whatever it is. And if you didn't enjoy it and you didn't have maybe a good experience with it, then it's like, was it all worth it?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of times when you are a professional athlete, that can sometimes be a very lonely activity. Whereas food and wine is something that brings us together. So it kind of fills that social cup up a little bit.
For sure. And I think there's a lot of sacrifices that are made, like whether it's a professional athlete or you're trying to build your business, you're trying to grow your brand. There's so much time and energy that you have to pour into it. Like people may think of it as a being selfish, but it's like you have to be a little bit of selfish to make sure you are thriving or building what you need to. At the same time, like food and wine and beverage, it brings a culmination of things together to be able to spend time with family or friends, to be able to relax and celebrate those moments. And I think that's what for me is important. Like I love being around people. I thrive in that energy of people and communicating and having, a time to share stories or make jokes or, share memories. And I think it's really important. I think, you're opening up a bottle at the end of the day and you're sharing a glass or two. Again, if you're not drinking, maybe you're sharing donuts, whatever it is. I obviously love donuts.
Mhm.
But it's about that balance and about coming together and finding that. And I think that's, you look at the two sides of it, right? Kind of the yin and the yang, right? It's important. It is, I would say it has its time and place. So it's about where you can tap into that for yourself or for your goals or your life.
For sure. Now let's rewind a little bit. So for people that aren't as into you as I am, what is a little bit of your backstory? How did you become a professional CrossFit athlete? And then I also want to break down a little bit about your fitness journey didn't end when you stepped away from the CrossFit Games. You've been crushing so many different things that I want to pick your brain of like, why? Why keep going and doing all these fun challenges?
That's
And
a
some
great question.
people would say fun. Some people are going to be like, sure, that's fun.
Yeah. No, it's great. So I grew up in Montana, was pretty much raised there. I was interactive with kind of activities. I did like horseback riding, taekwondo, ballet. I just tried to be outdoors and active as much as I could when I was younger. And then once I graduated from high school, I moved to Hawaii Pacific University. I wanted to play either golf or volleyball there. But I was too short for volleyball and they didn't have a golf team. We tried starting it, but it didn't work out. So I focused on study abroads and being able to travel a little bit, had the opportunity to do two study abroads. And then I found my way into outrigger canoe paddling, which is very popular in Hawaii and kind of like in the coastal areas. Did that. I ended up actually doing the Molokai challenge, the Nawahin challenge, which is essentially where you paddle from one island, Molokai, to Oahu. It's like 41 miles. I would say that's one of my most difficult physical and mental challenges. I was 20 years old, I believe, maybe 21. And it was such a mental task and physical task, but I think it was very good for me because it set me up for potential, challenges and hardships that I maybe face in the future.
Like winning the
So I,
marathon row.
yeah, exactly. Perfect example.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I spent time in the where finished university, graduated from there, moved to the Bay Area. I was wanting to be in some sort of health and fitness realm, gym situation, and ended up working at a health club for a while. Found personal training. That personal training I think was really important for me. I really wanted to help people. I think that stemmed from, not being able to help my sister. My sister passed away in 2008, my final semester at university. And as the oldest sister, I think in my mind, it was my job to protect her, to keep an eye out for her. And I think I felt like I failed her. And so movements became very therapeutic for me. Being able to maybe feel in my mind that I couldn't help her. So now maybe I can help others through movement and through training. And so I focus on personal training. That eventually led me to CrossFit, being introduced to CrossFit. I had heard about it, didn't really, I was like, I don't know if this is my jam. Then I eventually ended up taking a class and I fell head over heels of it. I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I think I liked the personal challenge of physically having to push myself, but also the mental challenge. And then the community for sure was like that third pillar. Like community for me is very important. I value that very highly. And to be in that environment, I think was allowing myself to thrive. So again, I've kind of gone on some tangents, but found
No,
myself
please,
in the
I love
area.
it. And I think you admit, I think I read somewhere your sister passed away from a car accident. Is that right? If you don't mind me
Yeah.
asking.
So yeah, she had
Something that was completely out of your control, obviously. But
yeah.
again, that protective energy. My husband also lost his brother in a car accident. And
Mhm.
anytime he hears about it, he'll hug people and be like, I'm sorry to include you in this club no one wants to be a part of.
That's a great way to phrase it for sure. Like nobody wants to be part of that 100%.
And
And it's
only
funny.
people that have been there can truly relate to one another.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's obviously a difficult situation. I've learned a lot. I think it gave me a different perspective in life. Um, obviously, I believe everything happens for a reason, good, bad, and different. I wish that wasn't the case. I think she had a higher calling, not staying here on Earth. She was called to maybe somewhere else. But for me, it was a big learning experience. It also pushed me to kind of adopt the way that she lived life. Like she made the most of every experience. She like tried to make the most of every time, every opportunity she had with friends and family and anything that she did. So it really pushed me. And I think when I found CrossFit and I felt that zest and that passion and that ultimate desire, like I want to compete on the floor like these amazing women, I just thrust myself into that. And I think it was that experience of losing her and not her having the opportunity to experience that. I felt, well, maybe anything that I experience, she's with me in spirit, and maybe she sees what I see, so maybe she can get to experience all these amazing things in life that she didn't get to physically, but maybe emotionally and spiritually she's here with me. So that was where I think I thrust myself into something that I really truly loved and enjoyed. And I think she maybe was just with me in spirit there.
Do you also think that because you look at life now as like anything can happen from one day at a time, if you're going to invest yourself into something, you're going to give it 100% and try to be the best at that? For that time, it was CrossFit, but everything that you've done since.
For sure. I think it's definitely the attitude I think I've put myself in, or put myself kind of to, and like energy wise.
Mhm.
I think again through CrossFit and competing, I was like, I let go of my marketing job. I, closed that door and said, I'm going to focus all on this. Did I know it was going to work out? No, I was definitely taking a gamble. I said no to a consistent paying job, to insurance, to health benefits, to all that stuff. But for me, it's like if I put all my eggs in this basket and it works and I'm successful and I make it, then awesome. Then it was all worth it. If I give it my all and I put everything in there and I don't make it, at least I could say I gave it my all and I didn't have any regrets. And
Mhm.
I think again, through that situation, through that experience, it allowed me to do that not only through CrossFit and competing and being at that high level for many, many years, but as I started to build my media company and my wine company and my fitness brand, like to be able to do all that, it's like, all right, I'm gonna give it everything I got. And to say there are struggles, like there are a lot of struggles, there are a lot of hardships, there are a lot of doors slammed in your face, there are a lot of times where you maybe doubt yourself. You're like, am I doing anything? Am I having an impact? Is this helping
Mhm.
anyone? Um, but I think you continue, I mean, I know I continue to show up every single day. And there are successes and you celebrate them, but just like standing on the podium, you're there for a couple minutes and then, it's on to the next. So
Right.
it's about enjoying the process, enjoying the journey, embracing those struggles, celebrating the successes, however far and few they come. I think I also tend to put myself in challenging situations. I like to have myself grow. And so I put myself in environments and situations that have called me to, rise to the occasion. And I think that's been beneficial and helpful because for me, I want growth, but I also want to hopefully impart and share my story with others to
Mhm.
hopefully help them. If they're struggling with loss, how did I get through it? Maybe that can help them. If they're struggling with a challenge, if they're trying to grow their business, their brand, they're trying to build their family, like what struggles and what successes have they had? Maybe I can help with what I've gone through and I can share that and hopefully elevate others. Because I think at the end of our days here on earth and life, right? Like time goes by so fast. What can we do to help others? How can we elevate people around us and give back to the community?
For
So,
sure. And during the time when you were doing your CrossFit games, it was kind of that transitional period where people were, doing 2 to 3 workouts per day, right? At kind of the start of it, but still being able to get to that top level. And then that transition where we had like the Frasers, where he kind of turned it into being like, no, I work out 8 hours a day. This is 100% my job. And you're talking about also building multiple businesses, which at that time was very different. Did you ever get any negative feedback for that, or how did you just balance it as a whole?
yeah, I think, I mean, in the beginning, I mean, it got to the point where near the end of my years of competing, I was spending 6 to 8 hours a day in the gym
Mhm.
because the level of competition was rising, right? Like my last individual competition was in 2018, and it was starting to turn into, hey, this needs to be a full-time job, which it was. And luckily, I had the support of my husband. I had the support of the companies and the brands that I was working with to help me get there. But it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. And that was kind of the pivotal time where, I mean, I launched my wine business in 2017. I started my media company in like 2015. Trying to blend and do them both. Like it was doable, right? But like as time and time went on, like come 2018, I was like, man, like to launch my business in 2017, try to compete, be there physically, mentally, but also like I need to go by the booth or I need to make sure my wine launch is correct. Like on Thursday in 2017, I did an event and then I popped over to the bar and restaurant that I did my wine tasting at and wine reveal. And it's great, but to do both at a very high level, it's hard, right? So longevity of that, it was, I would say the time was set, right? Like I was only able to do it for so long because come 2018, after the individual competition, it's like, man, to physically be here in the gym training, but I'm mentally here thinking, okay, I need to like email distributors, I need to set up for wine events and then, physically be at my wine event, like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on training. I didn't get my accessory work in. I didn't get that second conditioning piece in. It became a lot and it's challenging. So I wouldn't say initially got pushback from people. People were like, oh my God, it's incredible. You're doing this.
Mhm.
Yes, it is incredible. Like I didn't
Mhm.
give myself credit to like years later to say, look what you did. At the same time, it was like, if I'm going to continue to elevate as an athlete and, try to get on that podium and compete and win and be at the top, but then also try to build my businesses and be at the top there and grow and scale and increase my wine production, like it's hard to do both. Like you can juggle, but at some point something's going to drop. Something's
Mhm.
going to need to be adjusted or something will fall.
And so you felt after 2018, like it was like, all right, let's step back from this world of competitive CrossFit, but you haven't given up on professional sports. I mean, I'm looking at your stuff and I'm like, okay, American Ninja Warrior, the Titans, the tactical games. Why? And what has been your favorite from each of those?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I think after 2019 or 2018 as an individual, I started to say, all right, as an individual, I'm gonna come, this is kind of my time done competing. I did the Rogue Invitational in 2019 as my last individual competition, and then doing teams in 2019 was a great experience. I did near American Ninja War in 2019. I was like, all right, this is something different, right? Like this is the box that I've been in or the bubble that I've been in terms of my training. Like, how can I expand my bubble? How can I push that out? And like I said earlier, I tend to put myself in uncomfortable situations or different environments. I'm like, well, if I'm gonna grow and get better, like I have to push myself. So I think that's just something I've always had as a young girl. Like I want to challenge myself. I want to push myself. Where that comes from, I'm not sure. It's a great question. But I think, doing that allowed me to get that experience in Ninja, and then that allowed me to connect to the NBC Titan games. And I think that was one of my greatest experiences because it was a completely different experience where obviously it's TV and they want to tell a story and it's a different aspect versus just the competition. But it was something different and unique. And a lot of the things were a little more up my alleyway. Like you got to pull a heavy sled or ball. You got to like, do a sledgehammer, like crawl through a cage. Like a lot of those odd object stuff, I think I gravitated towards. I
Mhm.
think that's why I really liked that. I really thrived there. Um, it was just one of the greatest experience. And obviously, I think what I really liked about it was that Dwayne Johnson wanted to give up his platform to other athletes and other individuals to tell their story and
Mhm.
hopefully elevate and reach other people. I think a lot of people have had struggles in their life, and that was maybe a way to communicate with more people out there and give other people hope and inspiration. And talking to him and understanding that like the amount of viewership we had was specifically within the women community, and like female viewership was incredible. It was almost 50-50, where typically a lot of those shows are more kind of geared towards male audiences.
Right.
So to be able to see that have an impact and hopefully inspire other young women out there, young girls, it was really cool. So that was one of my most favorite experiences, I think, so far. And then pivoting from there, doing the tactical games was a really cool experience. I never really had much firearms experience up until maybe like 2020. With everything that happened, safety was a big concern for me, and being able to provide for myself and protect myself and other people. Having someone break into my garage and steal stuff, it's like, all
Oh,
right,
wow.
if if I need to protect myself, like, am I capable? And I think that put me more in an environment like I need to learn how to handle a firearm, be relatively comfortable, right? Because you always handle firearms with safety and precaution, but you also want to make sure that you know how to handle a firearm. And I think for myself, put myself in another, again, environment that I didn't know much about, but I'm going to learn, I'm going to become better, having the opportunity to do the hunter games and understand the hunting aspect of glassing and, looking for the animal that you're going to, again, in this situation where like you would essentially get to be able to provide for your family food and all that. And I think that was a really unique experience because that led into the tactical games, and that again, fitness and firearms, you're having to run, then shoot and run. A lot of the accuracy and timing components come into it. And I really liked that. I plan on doing another one this at the end of this year in October in Arizona.
That's cool.
And
I
again,
feel
I
like it's
really love
really
it.
grown in
So
popularity over the past couple of years.
yeah, I think it has. I definitely think it has. And I think it's good. I know Matt Chan and I did tactical he did tactical games as well, I think the year after or year before, but we also did Titan games together. So I think it's really cool to see people, seeking and wanting to improve their knowledge about certain things. And I think it's really cool.
I think if anything, I can like tell people that are listening is that you embody what I always say about living your fitness. Like it's amazing to get into the gym and work out, but what are you doing with that? Get out there and live and challenge yourself in these fun ways and make fitness fun. Make it recess. Like, as a kid, if you're
Yeah,
running these obstacle courses, that's just post lunch fun, right? But
yeah,
like as an adult, we're like, oh my God, why would she do that? But
exactly.
why? Make it a fun event, make it part of your lifestyle and give it purpose to why you're training every day, no matter whether you're doing it in the sense of the CrossFit games or going out and doing a high rocks on the weekend.
Exactly. I think for me, and that's been my shift the past, I would say like 4 or 5 years is what's the functionality that you're doing in the gym to transfer outside the gym?
Mhm.
Like I plan on doing a hunt. I want to be able to go and like hike up, mountains that have huge incline. And to be able to do that, like I need to make sure I have the functionality and the training that I'm doing in the gym to have it transfer outside to real life. And I remember a couple years ago, I went with a girlfriend, we went antler shed hunting. We were walking on a path and she's like, veers right to like to the left and like, hey, this is where we're gonna go. And it's like straight like uphill. But again, to be able to have the ability, fitness to go outside and have that, right? That maybe doesn't, maybe you're not gonna go antler shed hunting. Maybe it's like to pick up your kids or run with the kids in the park, or the ability to, hey, if something happens and I need to be prepared and I need to be able to endure like certain situations, like what is my fitness like, or what is my physical capacity to do that?
Right.
And I think more people are maybe hopefully seeing that. I try to communicate that. My biggest thing is like, how can I give some education, maybe a little bit of entertainment in there, but also inspiration to others out there to see the value of movement, see the value of mindset, and also say, hey, like, what can I do to help make sure I'm in a good position, but also help people around me, whether it's
Right.
your family, your friends, your community.
Absolutely. I was actually up in Western North Carolina this past weekend with my mom for like a little girls trip, and one
Nice.
day I woke up and I went hiking, and then we went canoeing, in which case like I had to take the canoe off by myself because my mom's 65. I mean, she tried to help, but it was one of those things where
Yeah.
like just move, mom. Went canoeing, then we came home and then we went pickleball. We played pickleball and then I played basketball and then we went for another hike. And I just looked at my mom and I was like, for every time that anyone's ever questioned why I live this lifestyle, it's because of days like today where
100%.
I'm 41 years old and I could keep going. I'm not sore, I'm not tired, and I'm having just a good time with my mom.
I love that.
Yeah, is the best.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so
So
cool.
I do want to change gears up a little bit because I know that we don't have a ton of time, but tell me, how did the whole wine industry and wine business come about?
So I've done home production wine for a number of years. I loved the
And what does that
process.
mean? Like you literally are just
So
making wine at home?
yeah, so you can make wine at home. And so I started, this was a couple years ago, started planting some vines with my family just on a small piece of property. And you're allowed in Utah, you're allowed to make up to 200 gallons yourself, right? Which is still a good amount of wine, right?
Yeah.
You can't sell it, you can like drink it for yourself. You can give it as, gifts, whatever, like for free, but you're not able to legally sell it. So I love the process. For me, being outdoors was important. Growing up in Montana, being outside was a very valuable aspect of my life, and I still value it today. So to be outside and, to pick grapes, to harvest the grapes, to go to pull the barrels of, or the I would say wine barrels, not the wine barrels, but the barrel,
The
like
wheelbarrow.
wheelbarrows, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Wheelbarrows of like grapes, right? Wheelbarrows of grapes down the row. Like for me, like that was hard. Like that was fitness in a way, but I was also like, this is just real life, right?
Hmm.
So I really loved the physical aspect of it, but also it mirrored a lot of things that I'd done in the gym for years, trying to get to the compete at the high level within the games. A lot of time in the gym, like all that time spent to try to get a muscle up or a snatch. I feel like that mirrored a lot of stuff in terms of the winemaking. It was very similar, right? You don't just plant grapes and then you harvest the grapes and then you like squish the grapes and make wine. Like
Right.
it's a
Wouldn't that be
process, right?
great?
It's time.
Right.
Yeah. So I really liked that. So started that the first couple of years. And then in 2015, after I finished ninth at the CrossFit Games, I thought, well, this is great. I love it. I want to continue, but I know my athletic years are not going to always be there, right? Like there'll be a point where this chapter closes and what happens then? Like, how do you pivot? How do you adjust yourself? So I thought, all right, well, if I'm able to build a business and build a brand off of two things that I really love, fitness and wine, then maybe it's something I can continue to, you know, continue what I'm doing in terms of helping others, but in a different facet, continue to share my message. And so I decided, all right, well, let's look into this and see what I can do legally. Utah's very strict with their licensing laws. It was going to take a while, so I looked into California, and there's a custom crush where I could essentially bring my grapes, crush them there, make the wine, and then sell it. So I ended up doing that. And within that process, learned that not a lot of people, distribution wise, specifically restaurants, they don't necessarily see the desire to have wine from Utah. So I started sourcing some grapes and wine from Paso Robles in California and started doing that. So obviously I'm leaving a lot out, right? I'm just trying to do like
Right.
the brief
Yeah,
top
yeah,
top
yeah.
tier.
This is so interesting. So originally
Um,
you were growing your own grapes originally.
Yeah, so just like a little bit of grapes, again, home production wine, doing that. I loved it. But if I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna do a business, there's a lot more legality. And
Sure.
wine's very difficult, right? It's alcohol.
Hmm.
So every state is like a different country. Every
Hmm.
state you need a specific license. If I want to get that wine or my wine into that restaurant, I have to go through the distributor. Then I have to pay for the licensing fees. I have to pay for each different label. So if I have 5 labels, that's another $500 on top of the licensing. So like investment of money and resources and capital was a lot, right? So how to do it small and strategically. And for me, I thought about, oh, I'm going to do this more of a grassroots kind of backwards. I'm not going to just open up a wine shop or a wine tasting place
Mhm.
in California because one, it's saturated, but how do I go about this differently? So that's why I decided to launch in 2017. And I had my wine tasting after one of the events, the first event competition in 2017. I can't remember what the event was because I was lost track.
Sure.
But yeah, so it was a great learning experience, but figuring out that if I want to grow, I need to get into distribution. And so to get to distribution, I had to focus more on Paso Robles wine. And so I focused on more sourcing wine from Paso. Doing the next production, I was able to grow from 300 cases to 2,400 cases,
Wow.
which is great. But again, it takes a lot of time and effort. I ended up doing a lot of wine events, grassroots effort, taking the wine on the road. Was able to get the wine to multiple locations in Montana, Colorado, California, and then Nevada. Um, Again, it's hard, it's difficult, like
I'm sure.
myself and I, right? I don't have a sales team. I myself do. I'm a customer service. I'm the fulfillment. But again, it was a really unique experience. Like I love the physical labor. I love the physical work of working in the farm. Like I love that, I think a lot more than the marketing and sales. But I've seen the value of marketing and sales is how do I
Right.
connect with people? Because the biggest hardship I've seen in terms of sales is like, why is someone going to buy your wine over a company and brand that's already established? Like, what
Mhm.
is different about you or your product that's better than this? And
Mhm.
it depends, right? When it comes to wine, people, they're going to buy either based off a label, right? People are like, oh, I like a pretty label.
Right.
They're going to buy on word of mouth, like, oh, I know this product is good because so and so, or my family
Mhm.
told me, my friend told me. But then also, or people maybe are like, I only like red blends, or I only want a cab, or I
Mhm.
only want a Sauvignon Blanc. So they're going to be specific to what they want based on, their preference or their taste portfolio, we'll say.
Did the
Um,
wine in Utah, the grapes from Utah taste different once you switched over to the California? Did you have to like redo your recipe testing or anything?
So I had, yeah, so you have different grapes and those different
Right.
grapes. So like Sauvignon Blanc, right, is one grape. So you have a
Right.
Sauvignon Blanc wine. I essentially had to keep them because of where they're grown and all that. There's legality of like what you put on the bottle. And
Mhm.
so I had the Utah grapes and then I had the Paso Robles grapes, but I wouldn't be blending them together. I would
Mhm.
keep Paso just Paso. So the wine that became very popular that I got into distribution was called the Goat. It was the greatest of all time. It was a Petite Sirah blend, red blend, Petite Sirah, Syrah, and Garnacha. And so that was the wine that I focused on.
Grenache is my favorite red.
Yes, I love like I love Tempranillos. I love
Hmm.
Garnacha, Grenache, depending where you're coming from, but Spanish varietal is my favorite.
Hmm.
But yeah, so for me, it was about not just the wine, but also the messaging and like the community and the story behind it. Because again, if I'm going up against a large company that has a lot more resources and capital, why is someone going to bring my wine in versus that company or that brand? So for me, it was very important to build myself around the community and showcase the story and have a message. And that's where my motto came from, work hard, wind down, or earn your grapes. It's all about the balance and that moderation.
So what's going on with the wine now? Are you still working on
So
distribution? Are you,
yeah,
what's
so
going
up
on?
until like 2020, when 2020 happened, it took like a big nosedive. I couldn't really do events, I couldn't travel. It became very difficult to do anything because of the shutdown and no all the like half of the locations that carried my wine, they ended up closing down the restaurants, unfortunately, which was difficult. But I ended up selling out, which is good, but then I needed to change some things, had some changes with the business. I started a new label, I started a new brand, and I'm working on that now. So I have barrels to bottle. But there's a little bit of kind of delay. A lot of the stuff that happened in COVID in 2020 kind of pushed everything back. So like distribution kind of took a pause. Costs went up, obviously, bottle prices, capsules, all that stuff. So I had to pause. So now things are slowly changing, which are good. So I'm working on the next production, hopefully. The biggest thing is finding, obviously, getting it timed up so that it can bottle. And then once I can bottle, I can get it out. But I'll change a little bit, a few things in terms of how I do that. I'm going to focus solely on Nevada and Vegas and California because since I'm licensed in California, it makes it a little bit easier. I don't have to find a distributor or go through a distributor to sell.
Mhm. And what's your personal favorite bottle from? It could be one of yours, but also like for someone that's just going to Total Wine, which obviously right now we don't have access to yours. But what
Yeah.
if you're like, oh, you just want a good wine that's like $15, a good dinner wine to take to a friend's house? What would you recommend?
It kind of depends on like on what you want and what you like. There's I think it's Harriet and Harvey. I'm totally spacing on the set part of it, but that's a cab. That's a pretty good wine blend to me. It's a cab blend, I believe. Um, that is probably one of the better reds that I enjoy right now. Obviously, I love my wine, but I'm allowed. But I think it just depends. Like I go for typically if I tell people like if you're looking for a red blends are a little bit easier to introduce to someone that's maybe not tried wine before
Mhm.
because a blend typically will have 2 to 3 grapes, maybe even 4 grapes in there. It's a little easier on the palate. I typically will also say, hey, if you're open to blends, go for like a Tempranillo or a Grenache blend,
Mhm.
like a Spanish varietal. Those are some great ones. Specific brands and companies, I can't think of anything top of my head, but I would say go to like, I mean, Spain or France, those are great ones. Obviously, you can get some great ones from the US, but I personally love a little more old world wines,
Mhm.
but I do not discriminate.
Yeah. When it comes to whites, I am an oak Chardonnay fan.
Nice.
And then my husband loves a good minerally French Chardonnay or like a Bordeaux. And
Yep.
then Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand.
Yes, 100%. I would say anyone, if you're Whitehaven's a really good one. I really love Whitehaven.
Mhm.
New Zealand, if you're going for a Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand, Marlborough area, like
Yeah.
100% hands down. I really like, there's also a couple of other varieties out there that I really like. Vino Verde is pretty good if you can get some from like South America. If
We can't
you're,
drink that because my husband treats it like Sprite. Like he has no
oh, he
control
likes,
because it's so refreshing,
yeah,
that
it's
he'll
so
drink
good.
it and be like, "Oh my God, it's been 10 minutes and the bottle's gone." So
Yeah, you're
we are
like, and I
actually
will say
not allowed
white
to
wine's
have
a
that
little
in the
easier to
house.
put down than, especially
Exactly.
during the summertime when it starts to get warm. You're like, just so refreshing. It's
Yeah.
funny, a friend of mine, she's in the wine industry as well. She didn't, I first met her, she in Paso Robles. She actually used to CrossFit, and so we kind of connected over that when we first started doing the wine. And she had told me that she's like, hey, you get a good Sauvignon Blanc or like a Sauvignon Blanc that you like or enjoy, put a couple of scoops of people in the wine industry be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But you take a couple scoops of like mango sorbet and you put it in there. Game changer, let me tell
That
you.
sounds almost
It,
like a
it sounds like
frosé.
oh weird. Oh, it's so good. Like on a hot day, and you're like, again, if you have a white wine, you're like, I just want to spice it up, change it up a little bit, like 1 or 2
Mhm.
scoops of the mango sorbet. Phenomenal. It's so good. I used to do that a lot. I haven't done that in a
That
while.
sounds amazing. Okay, I actually just thought of a very important question. So this has been a debate that has been going on in our house for probably a good 3 years. Now, if you say I'm wrong, I'm gonna be a little upset because I don't want to tell my husband he's right. But he likes to chill red wine. And we fight about this, so he doesn't. So he'll put ice cubes in his red wine. What are your thoughts on this?
So I've known people that have put ice cubes in white wine. I personally don't like to do it. I would rather chill the wine, like put it in the fridge or the wine fridge, or I'll put it in the freezer for a little bit.
But this is
Um,
red wine. Do you chill your red wine?
Oh, I chill for sure, chill red wine.
Really?
So yeah, so
Oh,
with red and whites, I'll chill both red and whites. Like I actually have like I'll keep my reds in the white or like my reds in the wine fridge.
uh-huh.
Obviously there's 2 temperatures, right? A little bit cooler for the whites than the
Hmm.
reds. But I will chill it. I personally like it because it chilled, depending on the temperature, right? You don't want it super cold, right? Because if it's too cold, it's gonna mute the flavors.
Hmm.
But I like is that like if the wine is chilled, you have that one flavor. So like kind of a one style of wine as it opens up, obviously open up the bottle, let it air out a little bit. But then as it warms up, the aromas and the flavors start to change a little bit. So it's like almost like you're trying a different type of red wine. It's the same red wine, obviously, right?
Great.
That could be more of a mindset thing than anything. But I do chill my red wines. I actually think as I've gotten older, I prefer it chilled versus like just room temperature because I'm like, ooh, like how long's this been out? I'm like, I'd rather have it a little chilled. And if it is
Uh-huh.
colder than it needs to be, I'll just wrap my hands kind of around the glass, warm it up a little bit, and then enjoy it. Yeah. So
Oh,
not
Margot,
saying it's
you've
one right or
upset.
wrong,
Oh
but
no. Because it's like a constant fight. Like he'll put it in the fridge and I'll put it on the counter and then it goes back
that's
into
so
the
funny.
fridge.
Yeah, I
So
mean, obviously
it's
whites
funny.
for sure, 100% chilled.
Yeah,
But yeah, the reds, I definitely do like that. I think as I've gotten older, I prefer it a little bit more. Again, I like it chilled, so then it kind of opens up a little bit. Will I drink wine that's like room temperature? For sure, totally. Like I won't be like,
right.
oh, it has to be chilled. But if I'm able to chill it, then I will.
And then what are your thoughts on like a Rydell glass? Do you think that the glass itself makes any difference to the taste?
I think so. Like, I mean, people, it's tough because like in the wine industry, you have a lot of people like very snooty, like it has to be this type of wine, and it has to be this, and it has to be that. I'm like, you know what? Like years ago, generations ago, like they didn't really
Right.
care, right? Like for
Right.
myself, I'm not really particular. I understand the concept of having a specific glass to like let it aerate and to like open up,
Hmm.
right? So for me, I'm not really particular. There'll be some. I have some friends like you have to have a stem glass because if your hand's touching the glass, it's gonna
I
warm
like
up
a
the
stem.
wine and it's gonna change that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm like, hey, I'm no judgment. I'm like, whatever floats your boat. I mean, when I'm out camping, I've had wine in a Yeti glass, and people are like, ah, it's not
Yeah.
real glass. I'm like, I love my Yeti glass. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
So again, I think everyone's a little different. I think for those that maybe want to amplify and they want to, try different glasses, they can kind of utilize that. I will say having specific glasses can be beneficial and helpful. Like when I took my intro to Psalm class, years ago, like being able to have a glass where you can tip and you kind of can see like the clarity of the wine. And if you're testing it and you're trying to make sure like
Like the
does it have
legs and
legs,
stuff.
like
Hmm.
yeah, so that's where it's beneficial. Like if I'm swirling my glass in my Yeti glass, it's kind of hard to see, right? I can't really see
Right.
through. Or if a stemless glass, right, I'm only gonna be able to see so much. If it's a very thick glass, that's obviously going to change it maybe compared to like a thinner glass. So not super particular, but I think it's about for people that want to amplify and want to learn more and experience, right? Giving them that option to have a glass with a stem so they
Hmm.
can kind of see the clarity or they can kind of spin it around to see the legs. I think that definitely can be
Hmm.
beneficial and helpful.
All right, my last wine question, because then I do have a fitness question for you too before we head out. But well, you actually mentioned the word like aerating. Is putting like one of those aerating corks on, where you pour it and it all flows to the side. Does aerating actually help with the flavors?
Yes, I definitely because it brings more oxygen
Hmm.
into the wine. Not really into it, but it opens it, right? So
Yeah.
and it's funny because in the wine industry, we do like if you open up a bottle, maybe you pour a little bit into a glass with the cork back on, and then you just like shake the bottle. That's like a kind of an industry. Hey, we're gonna aerate the wine. So yeah, like a decanter or one of those aerators, like a cork you put on, it definitely can help, right? Um, Again, it's depending on how like what route you want to go. Like, hey, do you really want to amplify the wine? Do you really want? I mean, I would say some wines don't necessarily need to be opened up.
Mhm.
Some definitely do. If they're an older wine, they've been sitting for a while, like, oh, definitely gets oxygen because you could taste it and you're like, oh, maybe not taste as good as you
Hmm.
anticipate or you remember,
Hmm.
right? So whether you use an aerator, a decanter, pour it in your glass, let it swirl, or again, just like put a little bit out, cork it, shake it again. But yeah, they definitely can help.
Have you ever seen the movie Bottle Shock?
Yes, it's been a long time since I've seen it though.
It's we go back to that one probably about once a year or so. It's one of our favorite movies. It's so good.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. So you guys listening, if you ever heard, it's a Chris Pine movie, a true story based on California versus France. It was a wine tasting back in the 70s, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like
Um,
78. I might be
Something
wrong.
like that.
Yeah.
And talked about like well, it's just about wine. It is a fantastic movie. We've actually been working on trying all the wines that were in that movie.
Really,
Um,
that's awesome. That's so
yeah,
cool. And I
yeah, so
will
it's
say
been fun.
bottle shock is a real thing. Like if you have wine, like shipped wine, what I would tell people like when they would order, like,
Mhm.
give it a couple days to let it sit because like it will change the wine a little bit. So you want it to like essentially settle before
Mhm.
you open it up.
And yours has done that before, bottle shocked?
Well, so yeah, so I mean, anytime you ship wine, right,
Mhm.
like it could change the structure, like the vibrations on a truck or however
Oh,
it's being
okay.
transported, right? So like typically if you get wine, like you want to let it sit versus like, okay, you get it and then like drink it right away. Some
Mhm.
people that might, that maybe more aren't experienced or don't have tons of like I say palate experience, meaning like maybe you don't drink a lot of wine,
Mhm.
you would not know. But that can be a thing for wines when they're transported.
That's good to know. Now,
Yeah.
so what's next on your adventure? What do people need to know? What we need to look out for? And is high like have you done high rocks yet?
So I did it as a team of four in February. That was so much fun. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I think I'd like to do another one as a team of four and
Mhm.
then maybe possibly do, maybe a team of two, like a friend of mine, maybe possibly do that. Kind of throwing around the idea. We'll see. I definitely have a tactical games plan in October. Have some other upcoming events, hopefully down like the pipeline that we'll see how things will go. Not so much competitions, but just more upcoming events.
Mhm.
But I think it should be fun. I'm focusing on trying to help people. I work with clients on one-on-one basis and I also do some group coaching from time to time, some as well as workshops. And so I'm looking to just continue to build out my business and my brand, reach more people. I just launched a 31-day challenge that focuses on movement, specifically movement, mindset challenges, and lessons. So I'm focusing on trying to reach more people and help people remotely because I know obviously like you can only work with so many people in person. And I love that. Like I love doing workshops and in-person events and seminars. I actually have one this weekend. But I think for me, it's about as much as I can grow and help and reach other people, giving them the tools to help them. And it's tough, right? Because it's like you have to commit. Like you want to make a change, you have to step up to the plate and be willing to put yourself in a new environment. And sometimes that can be our ego blocking us. Sometimes it can be other external factors. But again, it's like if you're looking to focus on making changes, whether that's losing fat, building muscle, changing your mindset, it's about showing up and saying, hey, I need to put myself first for, this one day or this 1 hour or this 30 minutes or whatever it might be. So that's kind of the big focus. with my 31 day challenge as I hopefully reach more people and help others.
For sure. I love that. And just starting with, and I do something very similar too. And I always tell people when they're nervous, like, I know I need to do this, but I don't. So it's like, all right, well, instead of committing for your life, let's start with 30 days. Let's start with
Yes.
31 days. Make it through this, then we can add on another 30 days. Instead of saying I have to do this for the next 30 years, let's do 30 days at a time. So I love that you're reaching out to people like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think commitment can be scary for a lot of people, and it's like, all right, that's a big change. Like oh my gosh, like 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 6 months, that's a long time. It's like just start with something small. Like those small goals will eventually compound and lead to larger goals, but it's like you got to start somewhere, right? Like, it's not just magically poof going to happen on a silver platter. Like if
Right.
it did, like that'd make things a lot easier, but that doesn't
Right.
happen.
It's not going to happen anytime soon. Now, did you knock out your push-ups yet today?
No, that was my next goal. Yeah. So I love those challenges, by the way, my monthly challenges. I started them in like November of 2018. So I've been doing them for almost 7. It'll be 7 years in November this year.
Oh, wow.
And I think that builds upon, right? Like, hey, I want you to do this one thing
Hmm.
for just this month, right? Like last month was a wall sit, right? This month is like, max set of push-ups. So the goal is just to give people a task for accountability to show up. Like if you can do this one thing for every single day for this next month, right? Then you can build upon that. Like maybe you can do something more. And I think the biggest thing is for us individuals that maybe are in the gym that are type A personalities that like we can go do it. We don't necessarily need motivation. Don't get me wrong, motivation's not always there, but we can get up and go to class or put ourselves in that environment. What about the people that maybe struggle with that? What about the people that don't want to go to the gym, that don't have the motivation or are sitting on the couch and they're like, I really don't want to do this. Like if I can help them and I can reach those people, like that's what the challenge is designed for. That's what my monthly challenge is designed for. Like help people to say, hey, you can do this too. You just got to start with small little tasks.
For sure. You don't have to get out and do a 60-minute workout. Get up and do 1 minute of push-ups, see what can happen, and then
Exactly.
something is better than nothing, right? And then that
Exactly.
just
Yep.
builds that confidence of being like, I can do this. It's so funny because our business runs a lot the same too, but we call them fit quickies, where it's just that one little activity once a day, compiles, builds on from one week to the next.
That's
Mine
awesome.
for this month is pull-ups. I'm doing 25 pull-ups every day. Um,
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome. I
So
love it.
we'll see what happens at the end of the month. We're on day, what, 3?
Yeah.
Well, thank you
I
so
love
much,
it.
Margaux. Now, where can people connect with you for fitness, for wine, for your events that you're putting on? Where can people get all the info?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, just margauxalvarez.com, and it'll have all the information on there for workshops, for events, for challenges, if they're looking for remote coaching or they just want to connect. I'll be on that has like everything on there. Of course, like my social media, I have almost all those social media channels.
On all of the
Yeah,
stuff. You're
yeah.
what,
Like
321
Instagram,
go on
yeah,
Instagram?
on Instagram and X at 321go GAUX, and then TikTok Margaux Alvarez, YouTube Margaux Alvarez, Facebook Margaux Alvarez is my name.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do a lot of education. I put out a lot of free content out to again to help others, whether it's my just go workouts, 5 minutes of movement, right? If they're looking for educational tutorials, if they're looking for mindset shifts, nutrition, motivation, inspiration, all that.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
What'd you think? Margaux is freaking amazing. I love this talk. I feel like we had a lot in common. I could have really continued to talk to her probably for hours. And yes, I did tell Dan he was right about red wine, but I still like mine more at room temperature. Let me know your thoughts on it. Make sure to head over to margauxalvarez.com so you can learn more about her and her coaching. And of course, if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Hit the like button if you're watching this on YouTube, and make sure no matter what platform it is that you're listening to this podcast on, make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss out on future episodes. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. Bye.